Hey, what's up? I'm John Harrison. Thanks for joining me. I got three of your favorite people joining me for this forum discussion. Ernesto Segismundo from Filament.com, Tiffany McLean from HeyTiffany.com, and John Clark from the Private Practice Workshop. So we're going to be answering some questions that are looking at what do private practice therapists need to know in 2018 and beyond, like what are the most important things that from each of their perspectives, like what do you need to know? Forget all of the shiny objects and its marketing tactics and all that stuff. Like this is just straight to the point, like pure opinion, kind of unadulterated. And, I picked them for this very reason that they didn't disappoint. I think it was a really good conversation. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And, if you're like me, um, this private practice thing is way more than just the business aspect. There's a whole personal growth aspect to it. And I think the more that I tap into that, the more successful my business is. And that's kind of the conversation I want to bring forward, not only with this conversation, but into the future. So you'll be getting more updates and emails from me. And anyway, I'm glad you're here, and let's get going with the video. Hey guys, what's up?
What's up,
How's
John?
it going?
How's it going? This is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. So I brought all three of you on to this talk, and let's start off with a question, and we'll just take it from there.
Yeah.
There are so many private practice therapists getting into this field, whether they're brand new or whether they're somewhat seasoned, or maybe they've been doing it for a handful of years, and they're coming onto Facebook, social media, they're getting coaching, they're getting all these products and fancy marketing strategies, and they want to help grow their business, their private practice business. And I think something that I've been observing is there's so many people doing this now. So we got even more and more momentum. We got more and more people, and there's a lot of information getting thrown out there, some really good and some maybe not so good. But how do people sort through that? And then ultimately, what I want to know from you specifically, what does a private practice therapist need to know in 2018 and beyond? And then John, if you want to go ahead and lead us off, and we'll get going.
Yeah. No pressure, huh? To lead it
All.
off or just try to nail it. One tip for that'll last you all year. That actually sounds like a blog post that someone would have out there. Like the one, you only need to know one thing this year. Man, and I'd like to say a couple things, but I'm going to use an example from actually a conversation I was having this morning with a therapist. So, lately I'm spending probably 30 hours in a week helping therapists kind of clarify what they're trying to say from the voice of their brand and from their practice. And so I'm working with a group practice owner who has been open and running as a group practice for, I think, 2.5 years or something like that. And just now she's realizing, oh yeah, I need a unified voice for this practice. I need something that represents this practice and this brand and still captures it for a whole group of people. Most therapists won't do this difficult branding work because it's too hard and they get stuck. And what's amazing is like she had been able to grow this practice over these years and scale up and have 6 therapists without doing it. But now she's realizing that she's confusing a lot of people, that people are coming to the website and they're getting overwhelmed. They're not knowing who's this for, if it's for anyone, and they're just leaving, right? So I guess, what I would say is it doesn't matter where you are in your practice right now. If you haven't sat down and clarified your message, the message you are trying to convey in your website, spend some time doing that now, that it's not too late to do it. And by message, I mean, I think starting with a tagline for a practice or a business or a gadget you're trying to sell, whatever it is one of the best things you can do for your business, whether you do it on your own or with some help or with your consult group or whatever it is. I just think that I'm seeing therapists get so much more mileage out of their websites and therefore, and out of all their marketing collateral when they peel back and pretend like you're starting the practice from scratch, right? Pretend like you're sitting down and going, okay, I've got to ask myself the difficult question now of how am I different? And if there's 10 group practices like me on the same block, then why should someone choose me, right? And it's really hard. And like I said, most therapists won't do this work. They'll just pretend like it's not important. They'll just keep going and they'll, or they might spend $1,000 a month on AdWords or something and wonder why it's not working or still get some traction in their business, right? But like I said, it's never too late to start. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot of sense, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tiffany, what do you have to say?
First of all, I have a million questions I'm going to call you John Klizark, Jay
There you go.
Klizark,
Like
because
that.
it's too John, so I don't know who's. I
Makes
have
a
a
lot of
million
sense.
questions about that branding, but I'm sure we'll have a chance to get into it over the course of this hour.
Yeah.
Mine is short and sweet. About fees. If your fees are not in line in 2018 or beyond with your financial reality, that means paying off your student loans, saving for retirement, getting your health insurance, being able to go on vacation, take violin lessons. If your fee is not in line with your financial situation, your financial reality, it is absolutely having an impact on your private practice. It is showing up in your clinical work and your this is gonna be a little controversial to say. We're gonna be talking about some controversial stuff. You're not as good. You're not doing as good a job as a clinician as you could be doing if your fees are actually in line with your financial reality. Boom. If I had a mic, I'd drop it.
Love it. I love it.
That is great.
Yeah.
Can I do mine over again? That was so
Yeah,
simple.
yeah.
Yours is
I'm like,
good.
damn.
Yours was like, anyways, yours was great. I have questions for you.
For sure.
Love it.
Ernesto.
It's my turn. How can I top that? Hey, Tiffany. Jeez. So, I've been doing a lot of introspective work, and I think the process of what I want to let a lot of people know in the area of private practice is that really do a lot of self-discovery. I think all of us can really agree this idea that we carry on a lot of baggage, and we carry a lot of our histories, our money issues. Tiffany, I heard you talking about that. And also this idea of confusion. And so the way that I approach my practice, my brand, everything about what I do in my business in Filmit.com or my group practice, even in teaching students, one of the things that I really hone in on is, do you know yourself? If you do not know yourself, if you do not know the person that you're growing into professionally and personally, people will take advantage of your confusion. And I've been on that end where I've been taken advantage of because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And at times I don't even know what I'm doing. But one thing I know is I know who I am as a private practitioner. I know who I am as a entrepreneur. And once you understand who you are as a person in a whole, then your business will be in line. You'll be able to communicate clearly your message or whatever tagline that is. You'll be able to say, I cost $200 and your body does not hemorrhage, right? Your body does not get to a point where, and this is where the value talk is very, very important. But I really do want to stress the fact that know thyself, know yourself first. Go from the inside out. Understand what goes on in here. Even when you say I cost 150, understand what goes on through your body when you say I cost 150. Or when somebody criticizes you about the work that you do you then break and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, let me just change myself to mold myself into what you think I need to be for you? Those kind of things, that's the process I go through with every single branding. Everything that I do on social media, my interactions with people has a lot to do with this years of self-discovery within the area and the context of my business. So it's also came from this idea or the experience of having people take advantage and kind of sitting back and going, what the hell? And it's not because of them. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. It's because of me that I really didn't move into who I was as a person. Therefore, that personhood did not seep into my professional stance. So that's basically what I am wanting to let people know. Know yourself first before you do anything else, or else people are going to take advantage of you.
Yeah. No, man, I love it. And there's like a consistent theme going on. Like John's talking about, know how you communicate, know your language. Tiffany's talking about know your value of your work monetarily, especially. You're talking about knowing yourself. And I mean, I really agree with all of that. And I think that I'm going to add something into this mix here. There's a barrier, I feel like, and this is going to lead into the next question. And that barrier is judgment. And when we are judging, like from a critiquing point of view, what we're putting out there, how we're putting it out there, how much our fee is, from the eyes of other people, especially. Like we're getting in our own way.
Yeah.
That this has nothing to do with anybody else. This is all about us and our process, and everyone's process is going to look different. Everything is pointing towards, with a saturated market, if we're going to talk like market specifics, there is no more room for generic. If my furnace breaks, I'm not calling the general home repair guy. I'm calling the furnace expert. Sorry. And you know what? I'm probably at this stage of my life, I'm going to call the one who's a little bit priced higher, if not more high, because I know they're going to be communicating that inherent value in that too, potentially. But think about how much, this is kind of for the audience. I mean, think about how much we overthink or stop ourselves from stepping into our greatness, dare I say, by judging without necessity. There's no need to judge. It's a process. So when I fail, okay, information, boom, on to the next step, as opposed to it means this, or, it means that, or I'm going to be critiqued because, all the therapists in my area are charging $100 an hour and I'm charging $150. I must be a money grubbing evil guy. And that's just doesn't have to be the case. But anyway, there's so many barriers. And I wanted to pick out maybe as a theme, for this year, just kind of noticing and having people maybe look into that, like, where am I prejudging? Where am I being too harsh or critical of myself? Or where am I even having criticism where it's not my job? It's none of my business. So with that, here's the next question. And you guys just jump in as you need to. What's tripping people up from stepping into their ideal practice or their ideal sense of themselves as a therapist?
Ernesto, you look like you have something to say.
Oh my goodness. I all of you guys, I've been watching all of you as well too. One of the things that I noticed that all of us have this theme is to inspire people to get outside of their comfort zone, right? We are telling our clients, our therapy clients, to become who they're supposed to be, right? To step outside their comfort zone. But for some reason, we as a therapist are afraid to get to that point. We give out this information and we don't take it ourselves. So I really do think that getting in your way, a lot of it has to mean this idea of shame, this idea of I'm not good enough. You don't deserve things. And when you talk about fees, right? Hey, Tiffany, when you talk about fees, when money comes up for me, my culture comes up. This idea that I grew up that, hey, you're not supposed to be charging people who are depressed. What the hell are you doing? That's not good. You get into this mindset. So that is some of the things that you want to explore. And I think the bottom line here, from my perspective, is what trips people up is something much deeper. It could be cultural, it could be something that somebody says, and it could be a level of trauma as well too. So I think that's a beautiful question, John.
It also ties into your talk, Ernesto, about knowing thyself. If you don't know yourself, you can't identify what's tripping you up and getting in your way.
Yeah. I think it's fear is part of the equation, and I also think comparison is a huge part of the equation.
Thank you.
I think if there's something to commit to in this new year in 2018, it's kind of staying in your own lane. I think that's part of it, and not doing things just because you think you should be doing them, or someone on a Facebook group said you should be posting on Instagram for your private practice in your first month of private practice. It's not a worse thing you could be doing with your time. So I guess I see a lot of therapists doing stuff and not really know why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think I want people to be an informed business owner and know, if you are spending all this time on social media for your business each week, why are you doing it? What are you getting from it? Right? Is it a part of a bigger plan? Are you doing other things to get in front of people who are actively looking for therapy?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I connect with a lot of therapists every week now, all across the country, and we sit down and we look at what's working. What are you doing for your marketing? What's working? And then we identify where you may be wasting your time and money. And there's a lot of places that I think therapists are wasting their time and money. The other part, I think, is fear, right? And there's always something that you could be doing to run your practice, right? And I think any practice owner knows that. We could be sitting here right here and go, well, I usually don't work on Fridays, but I know I'm supposed to start this email marketing thing. And I think I need to start a MailChimp email list. And so I should probably do that. And then at 7:30 and you just worked a full day and you didn't mean to. So are you running a fear-based business? I think too many therapists out there are doing that, and they're caught up just making decisions left and right based on fear. And I think it's about spending money. It's about fear of making the wrong decision. And I think when you operate that way, that becomes the core of your business, right? Or if you're a group practice owner, that becomes the core of your group practice. We're always afraid. We're afraid about not having enough clients. We're afraid of, you know what I mean, helping clients who have significant issues or whatever it might be. So.
Well, I like the fact that, John, you're calling this out, and you're not, in the last few podcasts, I really noticed this about what you've been putting out there. And like, you're calling this out and you're not doing it in a way where you're trying to like strong arm or blame or shame, obviously, but it's so important because there's so much stuff we could latch onto. There's so many coaching programs are going to say, do this or do that, or try this or try that. And the question of why are you doing this I just need to say never, but it rarely gets asked. Like, what is your goal? And something that's helped me kind of come back down to earth, or have my own like come to Jesus moments. I finally hopped on Tiffany's calculator, her income calculator, right? And I'm like, yeah, why do I need my rate at a certain level? Is it because it's got a nice shiny round number to it, or is it because it's really going to stand apart from other people? Like, so really breaking down my finances, because if we're not asking the question of why to ourselves, maybe why am I doing it? Why do I need it this fast? Why do I need it this way? Then we're kind of out there just like throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
We're wasting a lot of time. And like you said, we end up wasting a lot of money too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next.
I'm sorry, Tiffany, go ahead.
I was going to say this thing around what a couple of you are saying around comparing ourselves to others. I think that's super important, Jay Klizark, to talk about staying in your own lane. And also this thing about if you're just starting out, you have to invest in learning from other people who have done it before you. And I think there's this fear of like, I don't want to ask for help, or I'm going to get scammed. That's the thing you were talking about, Ernesto. It's a real fear of getting scammed by people out there or investing in something that doesn't work. I really encourage beginning or even advanced therapists to look around and see who's doing the thing you want to do, as opposed to like, working the wrong way of saying, okay, I'll charge $50 and then I'll see 700 clients because that'll get to my ultimate income. I say instead, look around and see someone who has the lifestyle you want, is working the hours you want, who is, for me, values of having a leisurely life where I'm spending time with people I love while also making a big impact with the clients I want to serve in an integrated way. Look out for people who are, first know what you want, then look out for people who are doing that thing, and then invest in learning from them. Either that's time, developing personal relationships with them, paying if they have courses or programs, or even for consultation, pay those people to learn from them. That's the best way to get where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to jump on that real quick. And John, you also, John Clark, what do you call John Clark?
Jay Klizark.
Jay Klizark. All right, Jay Klizark, you really hit on something about the comparison thing. And Tiffany, you going after someone that you really respect. So there's two things I want to say to that. That is absolutely true. I got into this comparison years ago, right? And it really, I thought I was doing great. I was like, oh my, I want to do this, I want to do that. And next thing you know, I started feeling insecure about the trajectory of my business, and I wasn't making things, I wasn't doing enough, and I was like getting down on myself. And that idea of comparison really wasn't working for me anymore. So I want to decipher what is comparison, is what is inspiration. Now I look at people who inspire me. I don't compare myself to them, but I see their work, I see the things that they're doing and go, you know what, that is awesome. So we have to, as business owners, entrepreneurs, we have to separate this idea of comparison versus inspiration. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's a really, really big thing. There's so many, a lot of us are doing so many awesome things. And when you compare yourself, that's where the damage comes in. But when you feel inspired, that's when you have the spirit of collaboration. Now, Tiffany, you were talking a lot about looking at people that you respect. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Look for that one person that you know has a reputation that is clear cut, beautiful, inspirational. You go after that. Be an informed consumer, like what John is saying. Be an informed consumer where you vet these people that you're going to work with, no matter if it's videographer, anyone. Vet them, see their reputation, and really do an assessment for yourself. So I think John, Tiffany, you guys are merging two worlds together to really protect the consumer and really identify this idea that, one, you need to be inspired, and two, know who you are going to invest time and energy and finances to. That's important. That's when you don't do that, that's going to cost thousands of dollars. I'm speaking from experience.
So this came up recently, Ernesto, with a coaching client I was working with. This whole idea of like people talking about their income, either on Facebook or as an entrepreneur, like on having your income reports and stuff like that. And I'm not going to take a hard stance on it today, but I think it speaks to what you're talking about. On one hand, some people can find it inspirational. You know, if you go, oh, wow, I could start a practice and make six figures, given that that's where a lot of people are kind of aiming toward. But I think there's also a lot of fallacy, and there's also a lot that we don't see. I've worked with group practice owners who are grossing over $1 million a year, and they take home less than solo practitioners that they work with, and they work 80 hours a week. You know what I mean? So I just want to break some of that down and go, okay, if that's a goal, do it. But why? What does it symbolize for you? What's it going to unlock for you? Versus, do you want to build a group practice of that size and work 80 hours a week and have that many more responsibilities? And, oh, by the way, are you addicted to your business? You know, are you addicted to your work? What are you replacing by working this much? So I just, especially when you're early, I really encourage people to not do too much of that comparison, right? But again, if it's inspirational, great, then it's inspirational. You know, it's also funny, Ernesto, a therapist recently mentioned you as an example, and they were like, I want to do what Ernesto does. Ernesto's like, he's going to Hawaii for a week. He's like getting lunch in the middle of the day and stepping away from the office. But it was a good thing. And they're like, how do I do that? Because they see you, I think, having a business that's not going to fall apart if you step away for a half a day.
But behind that is all the work that I do, all the shit that I've gone through.
Yes.
Oh, can
and
I
to
say
get
that,
to
John?
this point.
To get to that point, absolutely.
Well, so say more about that, because I do think people don't see that. They just see you know, having a smoothie in the middle of the day and being like, well, I'm here doing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I want to portray, that you can actually have that type of lifestyle that you want, that Tiffany is talking about. But at the same time, it's not easy to get there. Yeah. I'm just letting people know of the fruits of what you can do to not only work, never work hard, always work smart, and connect yourself with the right people that will encourage you towards that, not to nickel and dime you. And again, I'm showing the possibility with my personal brand on that I've gone to that point. And a lot of people know, and I've been really open about my struggles in my entrepreneurship. I mean, John, you know that we have conversations about this all the time. And there's a few podcasts that I've been really open about, some who have taken advantage of me early on. But then again, I'm here, I'm standing. That's where the inspirational piece comes from.
Yeah, I think if you don't love that process and you just love the idea of going to Smoothie King and taking selfies at Starbucks, like you're going to be disappointed.
Yes.
Because I know the three of you, there's no way you gotten to where you're at without busting your ass. I know that for a fact, because I've had to do the same thing for me, you know, and it's a never ending process. We're always learning and growing and scaling up in so many ways. But like, you know, I think that's another pitfall, you know, back to the last question that I'd raised, like what's tripping people up? I mean, it's so easy now. You get on Facebook and you fall in love with what you see or the idea of it. And it's like, you know, I'm not going to lie. I look at, like, I have a lot of respect for Tiffany because she's got such a clear brand to her. Yep. And I can't pull off wearing the fishnet gloves. And I really wish I could.
You could.
You know what I mean?
No, we can't, Tiffany.
Like, no one can, right?
So you're saying you tried.
But you know, back to John's point, you know, John, you know, if I can't stay in my lane, then what's the point? I'm going to burn out. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to be resentful. I'm going to be jealous. I'm going to be all those things. It's going to trip up the momentum of my business.
I'll say a pivotal thing. I actually emailed Melvin Varghese of Selling the Couch. When he came out with his podcast, I was crushed. I was like, that's what I should have done. I'm an asshole. Like it was like my envy was so high. And then around that time, for most of my life, I would kind of go like a disorganized attachment. Like I'd go towards a goal and then spin around and fall down. I could never actually follow through with anything. And when I discovered this research by this woman, Carol Dweck, who talked about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, it had a huge impact on my ability to actually start moving forward. And she distinguishes between a fixed mindset. You have a belief that people are born with innate talents and skills. They're just like Ernesto just became Ernesto, popped out of the womb, and he was having a middle of the day smoothies, and it was fantastic. If you believe that, then when you see someone like Ernesto or you see someone like the John Squared, you feel like, I can never do that because that's how they came out into the world that way. A growth mindset, you have the awareness of, everything is learned. And then you have, if you see someone out in the world doing something well, you say, if they can do it, I can do it. I just have to learn. It's a series of steps. And so once I had that laid out for me so clearly, I realized like, Melvin or Allison, all these you guys, people out there I respect. I'm like, oh, wait, if they can do it, I can do it too. As opposed to saying, oh, you guys do it, you have everything. It's a zero-sum game. You've won, I've lost. If you have that mentality, then comparison and envy comes up. If you can hold in mind the mentality of growth, if they can do it, I can do it, build relationships and learn from them. Actually, the success is inevitable for everybody. You can be successful in that if you carry that growth mindset.
Tiffany, what you're saying really resonates with me. And it actually makes me feel really good because every time I see you in social media and the things that you're doing, I'm like, damn, she's badass. She's amazing. But to hear that you go through that process of like, it's comforting to know that you didn't come out of the womb just amazing.
Have you not seen my pictures of high school? What a time.
That's what I'm talking about. This idea of authenticity. It's very sexy. Authenticity, and being open about your process. That's very sexy. And that's something I think we need to go into because we think, hey, shiny object, be like me. But no, we got to a point where we had to be crushed like that and go,
yes.
Oh, okay, this is a process. And it's strange to feel, and it's liberating to see someone like Tiffany, like John, both of you, to go, I went through some process. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was incredibly difficult, but I'm going to move into who I am as a person.
You guys know this person, but my good friend Kelly Higdon, who's just incredible and has helped me a lot along the way, it still helps me a lot, kind of behind the scenes. She will say that your business is a mirror for yourself, right? And so your stuff comes up pretty quickly, right? Pretty early on. And I do think it comes down to worth. And I can just say in my own journey, especially when I went from just a group practice owner to running an online business and kind of being out here in the internet world. And it's kind of like the wild, wild west. And there's a ton of comparison. For me, it was a process, and it's still a process of realizing I like to overwork myself for little reward.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And there's been a couple moments where I've had to look at that and be like, that's pretty pathetic. That's not good. And you've done that in other parts of your life or in your relationships. And look, you're doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're doing it again on 2 businesses or 3 businesses. And maybe, so we hide behind those, right? And again, we can always rationalize doing more work. We can always rationalize or tell our partner, I've got to stay late. I've got to work more hours. I've got to finish this blog post. But it's like, again, I should speak for myself or just say that, I'm not immune to that sort of thing or to using my business to hide from something else.
Yeah.
So John, you mentioned those episodes I've done recently. That's part of that effort of just really kind of going off script and being like, what's real out of all of this, especially online, especially that 5 years from now, we're all going to be even more connected on the internet more than ever before.
Yeah.
So, and then bring that back to your clients, right? So if you're going to try to speak to them in some way, speak to them in some way that's real. Because they'll feel that, you know.
Yeah, and I love your self-disclosure like that, and that's the kind of stuff that really inspires people to normalize this process. I mean, we do that. I do that. I hide behind my businesses at times. I know that if I'm spending way too much time, I have to kind of sit back and go, okay, what is it that's going on here? And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that we know, you know, the new practice owners, business owners out there need to hear that, hey, you know what, you're not the only one. You know, you're not the only one. And so having that reality of looking at and asking that question, why am I working so much for little gain? That's a powerful question to be asking yourself.
It's so cliche, and I hesitate even saying it, but you know, the authenticity thing, it's your greatest marketing tool. I mean, if you're using it for the powers of good, right? You're not using it to like coerce people or like scam them. You know what I mean? It's so powerful, but it goes against so many of the things that I think, at least I was taught in grad school, which was, hey, do you know there's an arbitrary number of 5% and you can't go above that in self-disclosure. So we take that into our branding, or we take that into our marketing, and we're like, I can't disclose.
Yeah.
And if I do, am I setting myself apart? Am I going to be ostracized by the therapy community? And to be honest with you, and this is totally a self-disclosure right here, I don't know if I'm going to be a therapist in 5 to 10 years. I don't know what my business is going to look like. And you know what? Therapy doesn't define what I'm providing anyway. I define it. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's huge though, John. And I think going back to one's brand, or Tiffany's brand, or Nessa's brand, that's part of your personal brand. You know what I mean? And I think that's something I knew. And when I thought about you, and I'm like, I want to have John on my show. And then it's like, okay, what's he going to bring to the show? Well, and then you look at True Calling Project, and it's like that's very clearly part of your personal brand. And there's that part of it that I think is more effortless for you. It's more like, you can't be fake. And you bring that to your work or to your podcast and stuff, and people feel that, you know. And so you connected with that part of yourself already and brought it into your business. And I think people pick up on that for you in particular.
Oh, absolutely. And so I want to go a little bit further than that. For those of you who've attended my workshops, there's an actual PowerPoint that has a list of private practitioners, group consultants on there. All of you are actually on the podcast. You're on that. And so for all of you who are watching this, that PowerPoint is a reflective of the people not only that I respect, but has a brand that is true and authentic to themselves as a person. And I know for a fact that they'll take care of you. And I think I posted it on Instagram once, and because I'm dealing with I'm doing workshops for pre-licensed clinicians, licensed clinicians that are new, and students. So because of my process, I got to give them information and resources that I know for a fact that I've experienced that would help them, right? And different areas. So yeah, I resonate with what you guys are saying in this idea of authenticity, because when you are authentic, you have people like me who are doing workshops that will post your website, your brand behind as I'm talking and explaining this is what they do. And it's almost as if I know what they're doing, right? If you want an edgy approach to your practice, boom, Hey Tiffany. If you want more of a clarity on marketing and getting your niche, you got John Clark right there. Here's a podcast with John Harrison to really discover the intuitive part of your practice. You know, that's what authenticity does for me, because I want to let people know about all of that.
It makes me think something about earlier, John Harrison, you spoke about getting in our own way if we're worried about being judged. And also, you all are talking about what are our therapist peers going to think about us? And we can be a particularly judgmental group for whatever reason, kind of keeping each other in their places. But I also think about it in terms of if we're not getting out there because of our peers or our own fears, we're actually getting in the way of helping the people that we're putting ourselves out there to help in the first place. If we're not able to get over our own shit or get over our own fears, even just long enough to make an impact on the clients we're passionate about serving, that's a huge project. It's not about, I can be very anxious, surprise. I can be very anxious about being out there, but one of the things that helps me get out there or get up and do my work every day is thinking, fuck, there's someone out there. I get emails from people who are like, I found your thing. I was able to raise my fees. Now I can spend more time with my kid, like real change. And I'm like, if I'm going to be scared or let my own fears about what other people are going to think about me get in the way, I'm actually doing a disservice. And it's almost a neglect of the work that I say I'm so passionate about doing.
Exactly.
Well, I love that, because what you're saying in so many ways is like, this is bigger than you.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's big. It's bigger than me. And that's where I get into this. I'm self-aware. I'm getting better at it, at least. When I start to criticize my own stuff, it's not mine to criticize. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not mine to get feedback on. Like, if I'm doing therapy, I'm handing something to somebody and they can do with it what they want. If I'm making content, it's not about me. It's about something coming through me. And when we get in the way of our stuff, we're trying to like do it all, you know, be the judge and the juror all at the same time. And it's really not that hard. It's not about us.
Yeah.
And I like that feeling too, because then you're open to all those cool things that happen. Like Tiffany, people come to you and they say, hey, look, I've put your stuff into practice and it's changed my practice in life. Like, that's cool. Yeah. Like, that's huge. And I will say, since I'm saying that right now, like, I have put into practice things that I've learned from you, and it works.
Wow.
And that's because I made the decision to be open to it. Wow. Instead of judging it or being like, I don't know, not everyone's doing this. Like, who's this person talking about that?
That's the interesting thing, right, John? So we know this as therapists. There are those clients that come to therapy and they say, I want to change. And then a year and a half later, they still haven't changed, right? A change that is very much in their realm, right? Within their grasp. And we know that, right? And we know that because at the end of the day, like, we are people who try to help people change. And the same thing happens in private practice. And I see this with therapists in any stage, where I can work with you and pull out all the tricks in the book and be the best coach in the world and do your marketing for you, right? And if there's some part of you that doesn't really want to kind of do better or step back from your business, right, or make more, I can't fix that part of you, you know. And then there's this moment where you go, again, like, what are we doing here, you know? Or where coaching just becomes therapy or consulting just becomes therapy, because there are those people who are just really stuck, or they go through every program available. They go through business school boot camp. They get coaching with every coach. You know what I mean? They get the best website, and they're still overwhelmed and not running a good business. And then the last thing I'll say, and I know this is like, you wanted people to be real. I think sometimes there are therapists in those positions, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if you're a good therapist. Why don't we talk about that? You know, again, we can do all the tricks in the book. Ernesto can make you an amazing video. Tiffany can help you bump your fees. But what if you're not a good therapist? What if your clients don't like being with you?
Yeah.
Then what do you do? And I know we have 60 seconds left. So
that's heavy. That's heavy, man. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna drop one tip, and then I'm gonna pass it to you guys, and we're gonna wrap this up. I would say to that, and that's such a good point. Go find yourself a good cash pay therapist. Invest into your own shit. Like, it's going to hit so many different angles of that process. And so many therapists by default are stigmatizing their own field of practice by not getting the therapy they say they advocate
100%.
for.
That's right.
And that's all I'm going to say. That was a huge impact for me in starting my private practice and doing my therapy, just getting my own work done. And it's invaluable. So what I want to do, first, I want to thank you guys again for your time. It's been a lot of fun. I want to let you all kind of say to the audience, like, where they can find you, where they can find your resources, and if you got something that you're presenting in the next, couple months, what they can look out for. And then if you got any last tips or things you want to say, go ahead and give it to them. So, Tiffany, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go back to
I could go.
John and Ernesto.
It'll be, you can find me at heytiffany.com. I talk about monies and fee and private practice. And just a number one tip, first of all, follow all these guys. Really, like my number one tip is to find people who you feel like you can trust and resonate with them. Especially there's this study by E. Lasky that says therapists more than any other profession are likely to be upwardly mobile or to be surpassing the income bracket of their family of origin. So there are all kinds of fears, imposter syndrome, what it means to move up, fears of making mistakes or getting scammed. I say find people who you trust to invest in or you can learn from. Even if you don't want to do a paid program, learn and actually put into action their free materials first and see if it works with you. Start there, and then the world is your oyster. There's really no limit.
Ooh,
I love it.
I love that. That's a really good one.
That's cool.
Should have had Tiffany go last
I know.
because that was too good.
No.
You can find me at privatepracticeworkshop.com for the podcast and weekly YouTube videos. That's a recent addition. And then you can get in touch with my digital marketing team at unconditional.media. I think it's about being an informed consumer as a business owner and realizing what you can do and what's better left to some pros or to getting help. I think too many therapists are digging themselves deep holes by trying to do it all themselves, whereas professionals can get it done right away and in half the time and do it better for you. So I think it's about learning kind of where to invest, like we've been saying all along, and also again not operating out of fear. That would just kind of be my last message for today.
Awesome. Well, you can find me at filmit.com or just find me on Facebook and let's just get to know each other. I'm all about engaging. I'm all about, that's why I'm on Facebook a lot. I love to show my world and engage with you. So find me on social media, especially Facebook. I guess what I would love to convey to people is, like what Tiffany says, follow all of us. Look for that person, that group that would uplift you and that you know what you need. Your body knows what it needs. So when you feel that sense of inspiration, clarity, follow that person. But if you're with someone, whoever it is, that makes you feel confused, stressed out, chaotic in your head, your body's telling you move away from that. You don't need any more emotional vampires. All right. I want you to be connecting with people who are just going to, when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go, oh my gosh, I heard what John and Tiffany said. I need to explore that a little bit more, and you're inspired and you've become much better than when you went to bed, right? But when you're with someone, you're working with someone that specifically drains you physically, emotionally, and psychologically, it needs to be bye-bye. Cut that. No matter how high you think their brand is and the respect level they have from the community, don't do that to yourself. Cut them out. You don't need that in your life.
I love it. You got a big workshop coming up in 2019.
Hawaii, come to Hawaii, guys. It's all over the place. Come to Hawaii. Just come to Hawaii. And I'll take care of you. Surf lessons.
That's amazing.
That's really cool. And I'm looking forward to it, man. That's gonna be an awesome time. I've been really since we're talking about it, I've been really impressed to see the response you've gotten. It's a year away, and there's been so much buzz about this workshop you put together, man. It's a real credit to you.
Well, I think I'm more surprised than anybody else because I just wanted to go to Kauai, right? And next thing you know, I see my PayPal coming up, and I'm like, holy crap, this is actually going to happen.
Wow.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, well, thanks again to all of you. It's been a lot of fun. I knew you wouldn't disappoint, and I don't think we did. So a lot of good content, a lot of good information we talked about. I think for the listeners, as I'm ad-libbing right now as I speak, I want to continue this conversation, and that's kind of why I had the three of you come together with me and see where it goes. I want to see therapists be able to kind of like come into their own and really put in the time and effort that's going to get it. You know, when things pay off, it's not going to be because they did something that was fake, you know, or something that was false to them. And I think that's kind of what we've been getting to today. So, so if you're listening, stay tuned. There's going to be more content, more interviews, more videos and things, likely from the three of you, with me possibly, or, you know, some other things coming around the bend. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you out there on the internet.
Can I say something real quick? Can I say something
go
real
ahead,
quick?
man.
Okay, for all of you who are watching, John Harrison is not only just a really cool kind of guy. I've been in contact with him for, how long have we known each other, John?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. And I cannot tell you how quickly he's become a support system for me, big time. So when you see John Harrison around, I mean, the things that he puts on Facebook, on social media, is really thought of really carefully. So, you know, doing this right here with all of us, that comes from deep within him to really give you a lot of value. So I know that you're promoting a lot of us here, John, but seriously, you have been such a really great inspiration, for at least for me.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
That was heartfelt, man. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. We'll leave on that note, man. I appreciate that. Guys, take care. I'll see you all around.
Thanks,
Okay?
John.
All
Cheers.
right, guys.
Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much. See you guys.